Lyra moved quickly through the crowded corridor of the medical ship, her hands steady despite the ship's constant tremors from nearby explosions. Her deep blue eyes focused intently on her patient, a soldier wounded by shrapnel. Her fingers moved with precision, applying a regenerative serum to the alien's wound. Despite the chaos around her, Lyra remained calm, her mind entirely on her task. Tavi, her young son, watched from a corner, his bright, curious eyes absorbing every movement. He admired his mother's calmness and dedication, his small hands clutching the hem of her cloak. They were aboard a medical ship in the middle of a war zone, providing essential care to those caught in the crossfire. Lyra's reputation as a skilled healer was well known. She had a natural gift for mending both body and spirit, a rare quality among her kind. Suddenly, the ship lurched violently to one side, throwing Lyra and Tavi off balance. A deafening explosion rocked the hull, and alarms blared throughout the ship. "Brace yourselves!" a voice shouted over the intercom, but it was too late. The ship shuddered as it was hit again, this time harder. The lights flickered and then went out, plunging them into darkness. Lyra instinctively reached for Tavi, pulling him close as debris rained down around them. The sound of metal tearing filled her ears. The ship was spiraling out of control, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to remain calm for Tavi's sake. She whispered calming words to him, trying to mask the fear in her voice. The ship slammed into the ground with a force that knocked the breath from her lungs. When Lyra regained consciousness, the world around her was a hazy mix of smoke and fire. She pushed herself up, wincing at the pain shooting through her leg. Tavi lay beside her, unconscious but breathing. Relief washed over her, and she gently shook him awake. "Tavi, wake up. We have to move." Tavi groaned, his small hand reaching for hers. "Mama," he whispered, his voice weak but alive. Lyra lifted him into her arms, her own body screaming in protest. She looked around, assessing their situation. The medical ship was a twisted mass of metal, and there was no sign of life around them. The war zone stretched out in every direction, a bleak landscape of destruction and ruin. They were alone. Lyra felt a surge of determination. She wouldn't let Tavi die here. With great effort, she began to move, carrying her son away from the wreckage. As they stumbled through the remains of an alien city, Lyra's injuries slowed her down, but she pressed on. She could feel Tavi's small body trembling in her arms, his face buried in her shoulder. "It's going to be okay, Tavi," she whispered, though she wasn't sure if she believed it herself. They needed shelter, somewhere safe to rest and tend to their wounds. The ruins stretched endlessly, a labyrinth of broken buildings and fallen statues. Each step was a struggle, but Lyra's resolve never wavered. Her eyes scanned the horizon for anything that could provide cover. Then, through the dust and smoke, she spotted a structure that looked more intact than the others. An ancient temple, its entrance partially covered in rubble but accessible. Lyra made her way towards it, every step a painful reminder of her injuries. The temple loomed before them, a relic from an era long past. As they entered, a strange sensation washed over Lyra, a mix of dread and familiarity. The air inside was thick with age, and the walls were adorned with faded symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. Energy seemed to pulse beneath the surface, almost alive. Lyra felt a shiver run down her spine but pushed the feeling aside. They needed to rest, and this place seemed safe enough. She set Tavi down gently and collapsed beside him, her body finally giving in to exhaustion. "We're safe here for now," she murmured, stroking Tavi's hair as he drifted back into unconsciousness. As Lyra lay there, trying to catch her breath, something caught her eye. In the corner of the room, partially hidden by a collapsed pillar, was a small alcove filled with strange objects. Her curiosity piqued, Lyra crawled over, her body protesting with every movement. What she found made her heart skip a beat. The alcove contained artifacts unlike anything she had ever seen, shimmering with a soft, ethereal glow. They seemed to hum with energy, and she felt a strange pull towards them. Lyra reached out and touched one, feeling a surge of warmth spread through her fingers. She realized these artifacts had healing properties, something beyond her understanding but incredibly powerful. Desperate to heal her wounds and help Tavi, Lyra attempted to activate one of the artifacts. She focused all her remaining energy, willing the object to work. But her body was too weak, her injuries too severe. The artifact flickered, its light dimming, and Lyra felt a wave of frustration wash over her. She was so close yet so far. She looked over at Tavi, her heart aching with the fear of losing him. As if sensing her thoughts, the artifact responded faintly, glowing brighter when she held Tavi's hand. A realization dawned on her. The power of the artifact seemed to be tied to the bond she shared with her son. A group of human medics, part of an emergency response team, landed their shuttle in a clearing not far from the crash site. Their mission was clear: provide aid to anyone caught in the crossfire of the ongoing conflict. Equipped with advanced medical gear and scanners, they moved swiftly across the battlefield, treating the wounded without hesitation. Their leader, Captain Morgan, barked orders, directing his team to prioritize the most critical cases. Despite the chaos around them, their actions were marked by a deep empathy, tending to injured aliens and humans alike with equal care. Each team member demonstrated a mix of efficiency and compassion, a stark contrast to the brutality of war that surrounded them. Navigating through the devastated landscape, the team stumbled upon a series of ancient ruins partially obscured by debris. The scanner picked up faint life signs within one of the structures, an alien temple that seemed almost hidden from view. "We've got something here," Captain Morgan called out, signaling for his team to follow. They approached cautiously, weapons ready but held low, as they entered the darkened space. The atmosphere inside the temple was thick with tension, every sound echoing ominously off the walls. Moving deeper into the temple, their flashlights illuminated a scene that made them pause. Huddled in a corner were two figures, clearly alien, but not the hostile kind they were used to encountering. Lyra, clutching Tavi tightly to her chest, watched the humans approach with a mix of fear and uncertainty. She had heard stories about humans. Some spoke of their kindness, others of their ruthlessness. As the humans got closer, she positioned herself protectively in front of Tavi, her eyes narrowed in suspicion. The humans stopped a few paces away, raising their hands to show they meant no harm. "We're here to help," Captain Morgan said slowly, trying to convey calm. Lyra's grip tightened on Tavi, distrust evident in her eyes. The tension was palpable, a gulf of cultural differences and fear that seemed insurmountable. Tavi, sensing his mother's fear but also curious, peeked from behind her and met the eyes of a young medic. His innocent gaze cut through the tension like a knife, prompting the medic to smile softly. "Hi there," the medic said gently. Tavi's innocent curiosity bridged the gap, leading to tentative communication. Seeing Tavi's response, Lyra allowed herself a glimmer of hope. She watched as the humans began to lower their guard, their postures relaxing. Captain Morgan took a careful step forward, pointing to the medkit slung over his shoulder. "We want to help," he repeated, his tone gentle but firm. After a moment's hesitation, Lyra nodded, permitting them closer. As they approached, the humans noticed the glowing artifacts scattered around. The medics immediately recognized the artifact's potential, their eyes widened in awe. "These could save countless lives," one medic whispered, studying the artifact's soft glow. They quickly realized that the artifacts required a unique interaction to activate, a bond they didn't possess. The artifacts flickered with faint energy, resonating only when Lyra and Tavi were near. Captain Morgan understood the dilemma. "We need your help," he said to Lyra, understanding the implications. Lyra's face was a mix of fear and determination. Trust these strangers with the most precious thing she had, her child, and the ancient power that only responded to them? Lyra studied the humans carefully, her mind racing with the potential risks and benefits. She watched as they moved about the temple, administering aid to the injured without hesitation, not asking for anything in return. She saw their genuine concern for all life, alien and human alike. It was a difficult decision, but she knew she couldn't activate the artifacts on her own. Taking a deep breath, Lyra decided to take a leap of faith. "All right," she said finally, her voice steady despite her uncertainty. "I will help you, But promise me you will protect Tavi. Her words were filled with both a plea and a command, a mother's fierce love shining through. Captain Morgan nodded solemnly, understanding the gravity of her request. We promise, he said, his voice firm with conviction. The other medics echoed his words, their expressions serious. Moved by Lyra's courage and Tavi's innocence, they vowed to do everything in their power to safeguard them. Together, they began to form a plan, working out how best to utilize the artifact's healing power. The humans listened intently as Lyra explained what little she knew about the artifacts, their minds racing to understand and adapt. They worked side by side, human and alien, united by a common goal. For the first time since the crash, Lyra felt a spark of hope. The alliance was fragile, but it was a start, and she knew that together, they might just have a chance to survive. Under Lyra's guidance, the team began experimenting with the artifacts, carefully following her instructions to unlock their healing potential. The first attempts were cautious. The humans moved slowly, unsure of the energy they were dealing with. The artifacts, when activated by Lyra and Tavi's unique bond, emitted a soft glow that enveloped the wounded, mending flesh and closing wounds at an astonishing rate. It was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. As they continued, the artifacts responded more vigorously, seeming to resonate with the combined presence of Lyra, Tavi, and the humans. The more they used the artifacts, the stronger the bond between them grew. A sense of camaraderie developed, a mutual respect for each other's skills and dedication to healing. With every successful treatment, the temple's atmosphere grew more charged, as if the very walls were absorbing and amplifying the energy being released. As the artifacts healed more injuries, a strange sensation began to fill the air. The energy emanating from the artifacts intensified, causing the temple to vibrate subtly, as if awakening from a long slumber. The humans noticed the change, exchanging concerned glances but continuing their work. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with a faint light, the symbols etched into the stone glowing brighter with each use of the artifacts. Then, during a routine activation, one of the medics accidentally placed an artifact in a small, barely visible slot on the wall. There was a low rumble, and the floor beneath them shifted, revealing a hidden chamber filled with more artifacts and ancient machinery. Startled, the team gathered around, and Lyra quickly deduced the significance of the discovery. Captain Morgan stepped forward, examining the newly revealed chamber. The ancient machinery within was still functional, humming with a dormant power that felt both ancient and formidable. "This isn't just a healing center," he muttered, realization dawning on him. "It's a defense system." Lyra nodded, understanding the implications immediately. The artifacts were designed not only to heal but also to protect the temple and its inhabitants. They had a dual purpose, to restore and to repel. The discovery left the team in stunned silence, their minds racing with the possibilities. The ancient race that built this place had equipped it with the means to both preserve life and defend against threats. The revelation brought about a heated debate among the group. The humans, though awed by the artifact's power, were wary of using them as a weapon. They had come to help, not to escalate the conflict. Lyra, however, was caught in a moral quandary. Her duty as a healer was to save lives, but here was a chance to protect her people from further harm. She looked at Tavi, who had grown quiet, sensing the gravity of the situation. His eyes met hers with a maturity beyond his years, and he spoke softly but firmly. "We have to help them, Mama. We can't just heal, we need to protect." His words hung in the air, and the humans nodded in agreement. The ethical dilemma was palpable: use the artifacts as they were intended by their creators, or repurpose them into something they were never meant to be. The group spent several moments weighing their options. Lyra's heart was heavy with the decision she knew had to be made. To activate the temple's defensive capabilities could mean sacrificing everything she stood for as a healer, but to do nothing would be to let more lives be lost. Captain Morgan spoke up, his voice steady. "We have to think about the greater good. If this can save lives even at a cost, it's a risk we have to consider." Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the weight of his words. She knew he was right, but it didn't make the decision any easier. Finally, she nodded, the resolve clear in her eyes. We'll do it, she said, her voice firm despite the fear in her heart. The decision made, the group prepared to activate the temple's full power. They gathered around the central chamber, where the ancient machinery hummed with a low, resonant energy. Lyra and Tavi, holding hands, approached the control mechanism together. The humans stood by, ready to assist in any way they could. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what was to come. Stay close to me, Tavi, she whispered, her voice steady but tinged with fear. Tavi nodded, squeezing her hand tightly. Together, they placed their hands on the main artifact, feeling its energy pulse through them. The temple responded immediately, its defenses coming to life with a surge of power. Light filled the chamber, and the walls vibrated with a deep, resonant hum. The artifacts glowed brightly, their energy spreading throughout the temple, preparing to unleash its full potential against the invaders outside. Tension gripped the air as the team prepared to activate the temple's defenses. Every movement was precise, each person playing a crucial role in the intricate process. Lyra and Tavi stood at the center, hands pressed against the main artifact, while the human medics adjusted the surrounding machinery. Captain Morgan barked orders, ensuring everyone knew their part. Sweat beaded on foreheads, not from exertion but from the weight of what was about to happen. The temple began to hum louder, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to come from the very walls themselves. Ancient mechanisms, dormant for centuries, started to awaken, gears turning with a creaking protest as if reluctant to resume their forgotten purpose. The energy in the room intensified, crackling with power. Lyra's breathing grew labored, the strain of channeling the artifact's energy taking its toll, but she remained focused, driven by the need to protect those around her. With a final nod from Captain Morgan, the team completed the final steps of activation. The temple shuddered, and then, with a burst of light, it unleashed a powerful wave of energy that radiated outward. The ground trembled as the defense mechanism sprang to life, forming a barrier that extended beyond the temple's walls. Outside, enemy ships began to falter, their systems disrupted by the sudden surge of power. Barriers of pure energy formed around the perimeter, repelling the invaders with an unseen force. Alien technology sputtered and failed, dropping from the sky like stones. For a brief moment, there was peace, an eerie calm that settled over the battlefield. The temple's power was immense, a force of ancient design that held the invaders at bay. Inside, however, the strain was visible. Lyra and Tavi's connection to the artifacts was draining them, their bodies trembling under the weight of the energy they were channeling. Lyra could feel her strength waning, her connection to the artifact becoming a tether that sapped her life force. Tavi, too, was growing weaker, his small frame barely able to withstand the strain. She glanced at him, seeing the exhaustion etched on his young face, and her heart ached. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of energy. Tavi nodded, his eyes heavy with fatigue but filled with determination. "We can do this, Mama," he whispered back, though his voice wavered. Lyra wrapped her arm around him, drawing him close. She knew the cost of their actions, understood the potential sacrifice they were making. The human medics, seeing the toll it was taking on them, moved quickly, working to find a way to disconnect them from the energy drain without shutting down the defense. Their hands moved with frantic precision, sweat dripping down their faces as they tried to stabilize the two. Panic began to set in as Lyra and Tavi's conditions worsened. Their skin grew pale, breaths shallow, and eyes fluttered with fatigue. Captain Morgan barked out commands, urging his team to work faster, but the medics were running out of options. Just when it seemed that all hope was lost, one of the medics, a young engineer named Sarah, had an idea. She realized that the artifact's energy flow could be modified, rerouted away from Lyra and Tavi. "I think I can redirect the power," she shouted, already moving to implement her plan. Her fingers danced over the controls, recalibrating the machinery to change the flow of energy. The room held its breath as the machines groaned in protest, but then, slowly, the strain on Lyra and Tavi began to ease. The energy that had been draining them now flowed around them, sustaining the defense without sapping their strength. The barrier held, repelling the invaders with undiminished force. The enemy forces began to retreat, unable to withstand the temple's might. As the last of them fled, the light within the temple began to fade, and the machinery slowed to a stop. The temple, its purpose fulfilled, returned to its dormant state. Lyra and Tavi slumped to the ground, exhausted but alive. The room was filled with a heavy silence, the weight of what had transpired settling over them all. The human medics rushed to their side, administering care and making sure they were stable. Captain Morgan let out a sigh of relief, his tense posture finally relaxing. They had done it. The temple was silent once more, its ancient power returning to rest, but the bond between the humans and their alien allies had been forged in the crucible of battle, a testament to their shared determination and bravery. The Warzone was unnervingly quiet, the sounds of battle replaced by a heavy, almost reverent silence. The immediate threat had been neutralized, and the air felt thick with the lingering energy of the temple's defense. The human medics moved quickly, regrouping and beginning the painstaking task of tending to the wounded. Bodies lay strewn about, both human and alien, the cost of the conflict starkly evident. Captain Morgan directed his team with a steady hand, his voice low but firm, ensuring every injured person received care. Lyra and Tavi sat to the side, weak but alive, their bodies still trembling from the ordeal. They leaned against the cool stone of the temple wall, drawing strength from its solidity. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, silently thanking the humans whose quick thinking and teamwork had saved them from the brink. The medics worked tirelessly around them, their efforts a stark reminder of the thin line between life and death they all walked. As the last of the wounded were stabilized, the team took a moment to catch their breath. They gathered in a circle, silent at first, each lost in their thoughts. The events that had just transpired weighed heavily on their minds. They had seen bravery and sacrifice, and the impact of those moments was not lost on anyone. Captain Morgan spoke first, his voice filled with a somber respect. "We've seen loss today, but we've also seen incredible courage," he said, his eyes sweeping over the group. Lyra, her voice still weak but steady, expressed her gratitude. "I am thankful for all you've done. Your willingness to trust us, to work together, it means more than I can say." There was a shared nod among the group, an unspoken understanding of the bond that had formed amidst the chaos. A small, impromptu ceremony was held within the temple, a moment of silence for those who had been lost and a celebration of the unlikely alliance that had emerged. The temple's artifacts, which had once seemed like simple relics, now held a deeper meaning, symbols of sacrifice, survival, and unity. With the immediate danger behind them, the humans and Lyra began discussing the implications of their discovery. The temple, with its ancient technology and dual-purpose artifacts, was a powerful testament to the ingenuity of the race that had come before them. The humans, intrigued by the potential uses of such technology, debated how it could be used responsibly, ensuring that its power would not be abused. Lyra, still reflecting on the temple's original purpose, agreed that safeguarding the artifacts was essential. They decided to collaborate on a plan to secure the temple, combining their knowledge and resources to protect it from falling into the wrong hands. This decision further strengthened the bond between them, a commitment to mutual respect and cooperation. Lyra could see the beginnings of a new understanding between her race and the humans, an alliance that went beyond necessity, rooted in a shared desire for peace and progress. As they prepared to leave the temple, a sense of hope filled the air. Despite the destruction and loss they had witnessed, there was a feeling of optimism among the group. They had not only survived but had forged new friendships and alliances in the process. Lyra looked at Tavi, who, despite his exhaustion, had a glimmer of determination in his eyes. She could see that he had grown through this experience, much like herself. The horrors of the war had left their mark, but so had the kindness and bravery of their new allies. Together, they looked towards a future where cooperation and understanding could prevail over conflict and fear. As the group made their way out of the temple, the first rays of dawn began to break through the clouds, casting a warm glow on the path ahead. Lyra, Tavi, and the humans walked side by side, a small but determined group moving forward into a new day, carrying with them the lessons of the past and the promise of a brighter future.